Hello everybody, this is the video tutorial for the S60-143 drive rod part. So this particular part is very common, has very common features with the 117 and the 145. So we are going to be starting with the model that you should have developed in the tutorial for the -117. So if you have not developed the model for the 117, please go back to that tutorial and do it prior to starting this tutorial. We're going to have significant time savings using the parametric aspects of this CAD system. So if we look at the drawings, the 117 has a turnbuckle looking feature with a pinhole in it and a tab on the right side with hole size for a press fit on one and slip fit for the other. If we look at the 143, the drawing's at a different scale, but the hole patterns and the feature on the left is identical. The overall length is longer, all the diameters are the same, and instead of having a tab, we have a half cut on the right hand side. So we should be able to take the 117 model, adjust the sketches for the end where the half round is, adjust some dimensions, regenerate it, and save it as the -143. We then can copy that model and create the 145, which is identical except for the lengths of the rod, and that is for the return rod. Okay, so we're going to go to SolidWorks now. We're going to minimize our PDF. SolidWorks, and we're going to open our 117 model. Okay, and the very first thing we want to do is we want to save as the 143. We don't want to accidentally overwrite our 117 with a different design. Make sure your revisions match the actual drawings that you have in your class, because they may not match the tutorial if revisions are made to the part. Okay, let's hit save. Now we have a copy of the 117 model as the 143. Okay, so now I've expanded the feature tree so we can see what's going on here. And what we're going to do is we're going to change these features one at a time. The blue bar here on the left in the feature tree is the history bar. And you can roll the history bar back and roll it back to the stage at which you were modeling each individual feature. And we need to change any features in this initial sketch, the dimensions, that are different between our two models. The 117 and the 143. So let's look at our model in the plane of sketching, and we need to compare dimensions. So let's start on the right hand side. So the diameter is the same, I've already verified that, but this 114 thousandths dimension I believe is different in the drawings. So it was 138 on the 117, and on the 143 part it's 236 thousandths. So let's update that dimension. We double click on the one dimension here. We type in 0.236, it's just 236 thousandths, and accept that. The right end of our part is now longer. Okay, now let's go on to our next dimension that's different. The distance from the end of the part to the chamfer on the end is 136, which is longer. And our dimension for the overall part, 165, is longer. So we're going to change the 165, 1 inch 650 first, because otherwise this dimension will be longer than our overall part. So 1 inch, 0.650 thousandths. We're going to accept that, and the part's going to get quite a bit longer. And then we need to change the 790 thousandths to 1 inch 360. Now let's change the tolerances of all of these to reflect the precision of the three-place decimals. Okay, so we've changed all the dimensions that are different between the two different drawings. And now we're going to accept that sketch. And we now have the part overall length and features are the same as our new drawing. Okay, now we're going to roll down in order and work on the next features. So here we've got the slot. The slot in the end obviously is too long. It's based off the one dimension at the base. So we need to go into the sketch for that feature and right click on it and click Edit Sketch. And that'll allow us to change this 866 thousandths dimension, which is in this model 1 inch 437. So 1 inch 437, and then we have our notch looking more like it should. And all we have to do is exit that sketch and the notch updates. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next feature, which is the flats on the ends. So we don't want a tab like that. We want a half round with the flat facing us. Okay, so let's edit that sketch. And we'll look at it straight on. And what we want is a volume that cuts the lower half of this, not both sides, and it goes to center line. So what we'll do is you're going to click out in space and then drag the cursor so you get a marquee box that envelops the items in the top of the viewing plane. And we're going to hit the delete key on our keyboard and delete those features. Now our sketch is no longer constrained, but we're going to highlight the top line on the box we have there, hold the control key down, and select what is the front plane that's intersecting the plane we're sketching in. And we're going to make those collinear to each other. So that'll make that always on center line. And now we need to throw in our dimensions that space it to the outside of the part. Now in retrospect, if I had dimensioned the bottom half instead of the top half, I wouldn't have to put these in. So a little bit of planning ahead, maybe you'll do better than me on this. Okay, so I have our two dimensions. And our sketch is fully constrained now. And all we have to do is exit this sketch and it updates to cutting out just the area we had there. And the model is reflecting the drawing. Alright, now let's look at it in a 3D view, because what we have left, our last feature, if we drag our history down, has our two holes. So these holes are not in the correct place. This one's too close to the edge, and this one obviously is at a shorter distance. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open the sketch that was based off of. And we're going to take our 60 thousandths number and plug in the one that's in the new drawing for the 143, which is 90 thousandths. So we're going to change that 60 thousandths to 0.09 or 90 thousandths. And both patterns move in. And then the distance between them is different. So double click on the existing dimension and go back to our drawing, and we need center to center, it's 1 inch 447 thousandths. So we're going to plug in that value, and it should make them farther apart and intersect the correct portion of the part. We're going to hit accept, and we're going to exit the sketch, and there we go. We've got this part now is updated to reflect the drawing of the 143 with very little editing. Alright, make sure you've saved this model and it's the correct revision and part number. And now we're going to move on to the 145, so I'll see you in the next video.